Auto sequence start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, hello there. Welcome, my fellow living avatars, to another installment of Canned Conversation. My name is Andrew, and with me, as always, my good friend Steven.
Well, hello.
Hello. The big game approacheth. Who will be the big winner in your book? The game or the commercials?
I hope it is the game. Yeah, because they've leaked most of the commercials by now anyway. So I'm like, I've seen them. So it used to be they didn't leak them.
Now,
So now I'm in for
Right.
the game, and I've got some. I feel like I'm compelled on this game versus most games where I don't care.
you have
I have a
dog
team.
in the fight.
Yeah, I do have a dog in the fight.
Okay.
Not a big dog in the fight, but I've got a dog in the fight.
I think they're both big dogs. Eagles, Kansas City, pretty wild championship Sunday games. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully it'll be a good game.
Agree.
Because those championship, some of the games so far have been a little bit lopsided. Unfortunately for the Niners, their QB situation went south.
That was insane.
Yeah, that was no good. So that one went way lopsided. So I hope that this is a good game, and I do look forward to the commercials and of course the halftime show. I think Rihanna is the guest speaker at this one, so she'll do a TED Talk. I think that's her specialty.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. Well, as is our ritual, one of us brings a new, unique, or rare canned beverage to try. And while we toss back each Florida ounce, we will attempt to amaze you with our wit and our wisdom. Today's being about virtual reality, future tech. And later in the show, we'll review and rate the canned beverage and let you know if you should try it while enjoying the latest Netflix mockumentary on the world history around us.
All right.
I just have to give a shout out to a couple of films that I watched, and they both are, I believe, on Netflix.
So I won't see them.
Cunk on Earth, C-U-N-K, which I believe is supposed to be her character's last name. It is a mockumentary,
Okay.
and it is very funny.
All right.
It's all about world history in the most National Geographic way you can do it,
Unfactual.
but like Borat, but way more, way less like I don't know what the word is. Like I don't want to say gross. He's not gross necessarily, but like she actually asked questions that they're just very funny, and and I loved that it was a mockumentary, but then I also watched a documentary called the Pez Outlaw. Must watch if you have Netflix. It's hilarious. Go watch it. So, but we need a can and we need to get started with this.
Make it happen.
So, yeah, let's go. Let's do this.
If you were to look up professional football's all-time bonehead plays, you might read about a Miami Dolphin kicker named Ray Finkel, who missed a 26-yard field goal in the closing seconds of Super Bowl 17. What you wouldn't read about is how Ray Finkel lost his mind, was committed to a mental hospital only to escape and join the police force under the assumed identity of a missing hiker, manipulating his way to the top in a diabolical scheme to get even with Dan Marino, whom he blamed for the entire thing.
What the hell are you talking about?
She's not Lois Einhorn. She's Ray Finkel. She's a man.
That was all for my Super Bowl Ray Finkel.
Yeah.
Like, it's Super Bowl time.
Yeah.
Must be Ray Finkel time.
Ray Finkel time.
Yeah. Love that movie.
Yeah. That's Liar Liar.
No.
What is that? I'm sorry.
Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura.
Pet
Okay.
Detective. Your
that-
OG.
Those three. That Dumb and Dumber and Liar Liar.
Yeah, they're all really
I
good.
mean, and I cross all of their all of the quotes could come from I'm like they're all the same. They all make me laugh.
Yeah, no, but that was the missing snowflake. You know, the Miami Dolphins dolphin.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So now but that's my problem is I can pull a line, but I don't remember the context in which it came from. So
Yeah. No worries. And
Horrible. I'll get ripped in the comments for that. That's ignorant.
So let's see what we're drinking today.
Please.
I'm
Good
excited.
Lord. All right, so we're going to drink an Urban Chestnut today. So Urban Chestnut Brewing Company, they have a winter white ale. I thought since it's pretty wintry and pretty white outside right now, this would be a good one. So it feels like it's the season. It's 16 Florida ounces, which is 1 pint. And it is, I don't know how many percent by volume nonsense. I can't figure out where that says that, but
It's 5.5.
oh, good.
It's on the side. It has an appearance, an aroma, a flavor, and a pairings detail listed on the can.
Oh my God, it
So
does.
while its appearance is hazy peach and pillows of foam, its aroma is more close to the ripe candied oranges, its flavor being that of silky orange and subtle warming spices, which is nice on a winter day.
Agree.
And then its pairings go with cold winters, warm fires, and holiday tables. No actual food, which is fun, but all those sound
Yeah, sure.
good to me. I don't need food to necessarily drink a good beer.
No, agree. So
Yeah.
a little Urban Chestnut.
All right, yes, and we're right in the thick of winter. I know people at this point in their lives are pretty sick of it and are ready to end. And as we just had Groundhog's Day a little back, that said it was going to be
Not gonna end for a
It's
while.
not going to be you're right, but everybody in February starts to get that itch, right? And then February, at least in this neck of the woods, is brutal. It's usually the coldest
it's-
month of the year.
I got it short.
But it sneaks. It never sneaks up. I mean, it's always cold. It's always super
Yeah,
cold.
it's always cold.
and ice. But I think people are just ready after a month after Christmas. They're like, and I'm done. I want to be able to go outside and not be bundled up or worried about driving.
I'm done with holidays, and we made it through January, which is long. Right? And so
Right.
a longer month.
Yeah.
And
31 whole days.
31 whole days. And you're like, and it was cold the whole time in your head. And then you're
Right,
like,
right.
okay, we've moved on. It's time for spring. It's
is.
so not. We've got 2 more months.
Yeah, at least a month and a half.
Well, yeah, the ground squirrel says 16 or 6 more weeks, but
Right.
whatever.
All right.
So let me kick this off. Is that all right?
Yes.
So I got an Oculus for Christmas, VR headset. So if anybody doesn't know
I don't even think they call it that anymore.
what do they call it?
It's the Meta,
Yeah. So
the Meta Quest.
yeah, the Oculus Quest 2 is what I think it is.
Right.
Technically.
Although, so from what I read, Facebook, when they changed names in like 2021,
They
I think
took Oculus off.
they took Oculus off.
If you know what Oculus is, good on you. If you
Right.
know what a Meta Quest is, good on you too. That's
I mean,
what it is.
I'm not trying to fact check you
Yeah,
here.
I've
but-
got one. You don't. Give me a little slack. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
So I got one for Christmas, and I've wanted one for a couple years. But I've never pulled the trigger. That's what Christmas gifts are for, right? It's like something I'm never going to go pull the trigger on.
Right.
And you've come over to my house since then, and you've played on the VR.
I have.
I've played on it, probably a couple nights a week since I've had it. Just doing a little exploring. Not really a VR professional yet, but it has really expanded my mind to where VR is, what it is, where it's going, what it's good at now, and what it could be. And I thought you and I have had a conversation because you were over at the house and we were going to have like, have you ever put these on? Put these on, see what you think. Let's do a couple different things. Let's ride a roller coaster. Let's play with lions. Let's do that kind of stuff and, get the feel for it and then tell me what you think about it. I thought it would be, we talked a lot about it. So I'm like, let's do a tech talk on, we've done music stuff. We've done, we don't do a lot of tech stuff on here. I don't think, right? We've done a lot of emotional stuff and feelings and disc assessments and things that people hate and make them squirmy. And,
Right.
so let's do something that's a little bit more hard, a harder, more tangible thing, like a little tech stuff.
Yes.
So we're going to do VR today.
And I think this also came up because I've been talking up that Apple.
Yep.
As a more Apple person, like I'm in the Apple sphere. I own the iPhone, the Superior phone. And then I also own other Apple products. They all work nicely
All Apple
together.
products.
And I enjoy that universe. And the news is this year they're going to come out with their own VR headset. And what made me laugh is the price tag.
Oh, yeah,
it's
it's
supposed
ridiculous.
to come out. So, I mentioned, it's going to be $3,000 is the rumor.
Yeah.
Right. And I like, well, how much was your headset?
Yeah.
It
400.
$400, brand new.
Yeah. Which seems pricey to me. That's why I never pulled the trigger on it. Right? I'm like,
Right.
ouch. So yeah, it's like $395 or something, right? So $400, but that's going to be $3,000.
Yeah, that's the rumor. And even if it's just a little less than that, like they're like, oh, it's 2,500.
Not buying it.
They're still going to be up there.
Just for the record, on the news today, I heard Samsung is partnering with Microsoft and coming out with their own VR headset to rival Apple's. So, which is also like that's usually what Samsung does, right? They're like, "What are you doing? I can do that."
Right.
So they'll probably come out with one for like $1,500 and call it a win.
They'll probably come out with one for $399.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
And because I think they're also not just competing against Apple, but some of the others in the marketplace, similar to what they do with the Android devices, But yeah, and so VR seems to be a big thing in the tech world, which is interesting. So, and we might get into a little bit. I'll let you kind of go where you want to. But it's funny because I have these memories of virtual reality back when I was a kid. It's not new technology. And so part of what I'm kind of interested to see where we're going to take this conversation is, what makes us think that it's going to be a huge hit now, and its birth was way before now. Like this isn't new.
So I thought about this too, and I thought, it has been around for a little bit. The technology I don't think was there to make it good. I think as technology works, right, like every 5 years, it like incrementally by a multiplier of like 10 speeds up. You just get more and more technology faster and faster and faster, and you get the ability to reduce the size in pixels that you can put on a screen and all that kind of stuff. Like chip speeds faster, memory's easier, everything's cheaper, just quantities of scale kind of thing. You can just do things faster and better anymore. So I think that's part of it, is that we're just getting to a place where technology is moving so fast, you can start doing some of these things a lot better. But I feel like there's also you were ahead of your time kind of component. I feel like Steve Jobs was always there. Like he was always ahead of his time, giving people things they didn't know they needed, and then it kind of took a minute. Like QR code. The first thing that popped in my head was QR codes. Like we were talking about QR codes 15, 20 years ago, but now all of a sudden there's QR codes on everything. I couldn't get people to like download a QR scanner to save their life 10 years ago. When I put them on a shirt, I put a QR code on a shirt and people are like, what is that weird box on the back? And now they're like, you can freaking QR code anything. So they're everywhere. Like some restaurants don't even have menus. They just got a QR code that you have to load on your. So I just think maybe things were a little ahead of their time back then.
Yeah, perhaps. And that's an interesting, because I actually went back to see how far back did VR go? Did you?
No.
Okay.
Give me the dates.
Do you want to know?
I do.
All
I
right.
ever so much want to know.
So, what I think is great is you can really trace this all the way back to the early 1900s. Sir Charles Wheatstone created and patented the stereoscope. So he took two pictures, but not exactly the same perspective, right? Just enough, like, you know how your eyes are slightly different.
Yep.
And that's really what, if you're going to look for a natural, immersive 3D world, the picture has to be a little bit separate, just like your eyeballs are.
Yep.
So he did that and put it in this like contraption he built that you could put on your face.
Okay.
Now, does that sound like anything?
It does, but that's not virtual reality. That's two separate pictures.
I understand, because they didn't have video back then or LED screens or any of that.
Software.
But to my point, it's the roots come from that.
Okay.
But I will say, does that sound like anything though? That a contraption that you put up to your face and you see 3D?
Yeah, I have one of those. It's an Oculus.
Okay, no,
But
ViewMaster.
So they have ViewMasters, but they also had for a while those cardboard things that you could use you could take your phone and put it in there. It did the same thing. Do you remember that? Like
Yes,
the original
yes.
like 3Ds that you could slip your phone in.
Right.
It gave you two separate pictures. Same
Yes,
way.
right.
Okay. Sorry, I'm skipping way ahead in time.
That's
but-
way ahead, because the ViewMaster came out in 1939.
Okay.
So again, same sort of concept, but people wanted to see an immersive
Yeah.
world that wasn't really the world in front of them, right? So, and on a disc, 7 images.
Yep. I do
So
remember those.
1939. I didn't know if you knew it went that far back.
The little plastic.
yeah, and they're still in production today.
Well, yeah.
Which is great, but it's amazing how
Made by
far
Meta.
back that comes back.
Just kidding.
But then in the 1950s, when we did have video, this is considered sort of the first VR. This guy named Morton Helig, he invented the Sensorama.
I love the name.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right. That's so
That's it.
1950s,
Yeah.
right?
Everything was an orama back then.
Right. So he's like, man, these movies are fine and all, but I want to feel like I'm in the movie. So he built this thing that looks like an arcade stand-up thing, but you sit in it and you put your face up right next to it. And then it had audio, it vibrated.
Oh, yeah, so
I mean,
it's-
there was some smell associated with it too. So like it was
is funny,
supposed to be this all immersive thing. A few years later, he's like, all right, this giant box isn't going to work. He built this headset and it looks very remarkably similar
To what we have now.
What we have now.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's really considered the first VR. And that was the late 50s.
Yeah. I mean, the government's had it for a long time because
Yeah.
they wanted it for flight simulation and
Right.
tactical, the ability to plan out tactical things without having to be at that tactical location. Right. So,
Right. So I was reading about that, saw that. NASA used it in the 1970s.
Yep.
They were playing with it in their mass to do a lot of simulation of what their astronauts could do.
Yeah.
And then the first commercial use, which is what I sort of mentioned using when I was a kid, was called Virtuality.
Okay.
That's the company name. And they came out in the 80s. And I don't know if you remember this or people that are listening, but they had a stand-up rig that had a circle. And you stand in the circle and you had this giant headset on.
It was a Mondo headset.
Yeah. And then you had to put something around your waist.
I don't remember that.
And then you had like something in your hand, right, that you held. And it was actually the way that it worked was based on an electromagnetic field that was created within that circle to tell where your movements were.
Which is cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
it
then-
probably was deadly too.
But we played that at a
mall.
when it first came out. We went to the mall and there was one whole store dedicated to that. And it was like $8 for 5 minutes, or not even 5 minutes. It was like one. And I watched the video. I sent it to you,
Yeah.
right? And I was trying to visualize the game that we played. And as soon as I saw it, I went, "That's it. That was the thing, the pterodactyl horror, or whatever."
Yeah.
And I'll post a link to that in
You should,
the
because
description.
other people should go back and
Right.
see what that looked like, because it's
Yeah.
Minecraft, virtual reality in Minecraft. Like, it's so blocky and
Right.
like old school Atari looking.
But it was still immersive.
Yeah,
And it was 20 frames it went 20 frames per second. And the field of view was only 60 degrees, right? Which comes up later because that's one of the things I'm going to talk to you about, right? Because when we were kind of talking about like, what's the use cases of this? Does this really feel immersive? I started to think of what my actual field of vision is.
it's more than 60
And
degrees.
it feels like almost one. Now I say that because everything feels like a circle. And then if I could see my peripheral, but it almost feels like it's 180 degrees.
Yeah.
From hand to hand. I can see both of my hands right now, and they're completely on opposite sides of my head. So will they be able to, they've been messing with this since the 80s commercially. That is 40 years ago. So where have we come in 40 years?
So
How do you feel as an owner that
as
uses
an owner, there's a couple things. So this is why I was going to geek out and go, this is the stuff that, like, when I put it on and what my exploration through the metaverse of apps and things that you can get involved in, there's stuff that I don't want any part of. In that you can go chat with people at a coffee shop in the metaverse. I'm like, I'm good. Thanks though. And there's games that are very interactive with other people that I'm also super not interested
That's
in.
because you're an old man.
I agree. I'm an old grumpy guy. And
Right.
I jumped into a game the other day and it was a bunch of 13-year-old kids having a snowball fight in this thing called like monkey tag or gorilla tag. And seriously, some kid came up and absolutely beat me to death. And I can hear them talking. They're 14 years old. I got dropped into it. I'm like, what is going on? And then some kid comes up and just absolutely kills me. And he laughs and runs off. He's like, new guy, woo! And all in his little kid voice, right? And I'm like, I got to get out of this game. It was insane. But I got a new game the other night. It's called Virtuoso. It allows you to make music. And so I can set up a virtual reality drum set in front of me. And it's transparent, which means I can see everything else around me. I can just set it up in my living room or sitting on my couch and put the drums all the way around me and still see everything that's going on around me and just have a drum set in front of me. I can completely play drums. I can get a loop pedal and I can loop a drum beat, and then I can pull out a harp, or I can pull out these other musical instruments and loop music over it. And then it obviously has a microphone. So then I can loop a voice over that. If I could sing, I would do that, but I don't. I can't. So, but like, it's called Virtuoso. It's a cool little application, and it's super fun. Like, it's a blast to just sit there and go, I want to. So I thought of you the other night. I'm like, I need to get you to sit down and build yourself a drum set, because you wanted to be a drummer at heart, right? So like, get you a drum set and let you play with all. It's basically having an electronic drum kit. And you can change all of the electronic sounds you want. You can make it normal drum kit, or you can make it sound like laser beams or whatever you want to do. And every type of cymbal you could ask for, cowbells. It's dope. It's awesome. But then there's also the other music. I could make a big harp, and I can play like a electric harp if I want to make actual. It's cool as hell. I'm like, I love this thing. So Virtuoso was cool. I've been through a bunch of museums that I probably never go to, and now I know that I don't need to, because I've been there, and I'm like, that is not that impressive. I saw the Mona Lisa. It's a little tiny painting. It's dark, and you can't even get close to it. It's whatever. I'm not in. I don't want to go. Some of the other stuff in that place I might go see in the Louvre, but not the Mona Lisa. Anyway, so I've been to a bunch
overrated.
of yeah, overrated. It is. I've been to a bunch of museums. I've sat down and watched lions walk around me in Africa, which I thought was pretty cool. You guys did the skydiving stuff too, right? Like we did like Red Bull skydiving through right around the pyramids in Egypt, so you get to see all that stuff. I've been through like the tunnel of Valley of the Kings and walked through like real tombs, and you can see everything around you. It's super dope. So those things I think are really cool. And then I discovered the YouTube stuff, and there's all these 360 videos on YouTube. And so I've been to like raves in Florida, and then I went to I sat on stage and watched a Dave show. And like, I'm standing right next to him. It just looks perfectly normal. Just like a dude standing on stage watching, like I'm sitting next to Tim Reynolds and Dave Matthews and right next to their keyboarder. And I'm like, sweet. You just stand there and watch him play. It was the weirdest experience, but it's pretty damn cool. I'm not going to lie. And so then I was like, I'm going to go on stage with Metallica. Sure. There's one out there for Metallica. You can go sit and watch Metallica and be on stage with a band instead of being in, So there's a whole bunch of people who film stuff from way out, and it's dumb. Like I could buy tickets for way out. You can't see anything anyway. So that's where I am now with it, just of what I've discovered so far, that there's like, when you get that deep, there's all these other use cases that you're like, oh, I want to go here. I want to try this. I want to like, what else could I use this for? And I know you came over and were like, hey, where's the flight simulator? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet.
Well, yeah. And to your point, when I came over, and I had not been in a virtual reality situation since 1990, right?
It's been a while. Yeah.
When I was doing the ones at the mall. And so those had the stand up, and they had a sit down, the tank game. It was very much gaming oriented.
Yep.
Right. And I think they even came out with some additions that they put in arcades, and was like a racing style, and then a flight one, I think. But so they eventually went out of business, which is interesting to me, right? Because you would have thought as they matured the technology, they would find new and better games,
right,
or an audience. But that didn't really work. Didn't do it, because other gaming platforms were way outpacing them, and people were like, I don't have to be immersed, right? Sony PlayStation came out, and it was like
realistic was more important, right?
Right, and the playability was far superior, because the computing power and to do the virtual reality just couldn't handle it, right? So it was interesting to me that they went out of business in the mid 90s. They lasted for a few years, but not very long.
Yeah.
And I'm not meaning to play devil's advocate, but what's interesting is I sort of want to throw out these nuggets and go, do you remember when Google Glass came out? Mm-hmm. Like before Google Glass, I feel like that was going to be this thing, right? This revolutionary, oh my gosh, technology has brought us here. Instead of pulling out your phone everywhere, you can just walk around, and if there's something that you want to take a picture of, snap it.
Yeah. But Google is historically finicky with what they bring out. They bring out stuff and then kill it fairly often. But I will tell you, my last gig, we worked with IR glasses, and it's done by a company called Iris Stick, and they're out in Germany or Austria. Doesn't matter. They flew over and worked with us. We put IR glasses on people walking through cornfields, and they were
Augmented reality glasses, right?
informed reality.
Oh, okay.
Augmented being you could actually interact with things like if you touched a corn, it would recognize a bug and go, there's a bug on that plant, and you could touch that where that thing is, and it would pop up and go, it's this kind of bug. You should spray this kind of chemical on it. We didn't get there. We didn't get there yet.
Okay.
But they just did informed reality, which is I can ask you a series of questions. You can and it will on an eye display. In your glasses, on your eye display.
Oh, okay.
It has a camera so somebody else can be watching through that camera, and it will record and take pictures. It has a laser beam, so you know exactly where you're looking. And then it's all voice command. So I can do things walking in a factory, in a warehouse, in a field, in a wherever, and have my hands completely free. Just use my voice to command an entire software program that informs me on my eyeglasses, like a screen on my eye, right? Which is just informed reality, but it's pretty dope.
Yeah.
And it's really one step away from saying I can now do AR, which is augmented reality, and say now you get to see reality, and we'll overlay some sort of technology that lets you interact with something that's not reality, like information, which is or mixed reality, whatever you want to call that. But so yeah.
So commercially, it sounds like there's definitely some
getting
application.
there. Yeah.
I think for Google, they definitely messed up. They had some bad marketing. They had some bad PR at first that they really didn't know how to handle with security issues. And, what if I walk into a place and it's can see anything and I'm at the urinal or,
right.
I'm with other people that are in a situation they don't want to be.
There's some downside in
taped
all of that.
Recorded. I should say taped. I'm so old school.
Yeah, it's a big VCR tape that you have to pull out the back pocket.
Giant thing you put on your.
That's awesome.
And you put on your shoulder that has a VHS tape in it. So I just thought I'd bring that up because I just remembered Google Glass, and I was like, okay, I want to see, how long did that take to go out? And it was like 2 years life cycle, and they killed it. And they're going to be in the VR business too. They're working on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it'll be interesting to see, what their take is on it. But is it a flash in the pan where everybody goes, oh, this is going to be great, we're going to run really fast towards this and hope that. And the other thing that I did read about the Google Glass was that nobody really had good use cases for it. Yeah. Right. It was kind of like it was a
novelty.
It was novelty. Number one, you could show off if you're walking around and you have it. People noticed it, right? Yeah. And we're like, hey, that dude has money because that was. Yeah. It was. Not everybody had it, obviously. And then. Then the other part was it was like, well, there's fun stuff, but but not enough to justify, right? I can't figure out why I would want to spend a lot of money on this just to videotape everything I see in the day.
Yeah, there's not enough value there, right? Right. I will tell you that the old gig where we were doing IR stuff, we had HoloLens. We had 3 companies that all had AR, IR glasses in the commercial market already, that were just hungry as heck to get into that space. And we, like the company I was working for, even hired a VR person to start programming all of our trainings for dangerous chemicals in VR world so that we didn't have to put people in a dangerous position to train them how to use dangerous chemicals. So there's an application for it for sure commercially already. I just don't think so for one, I think what happened to VR in the 90s where everybody outpaced them in the reality of how real games turned into with Sony PlayStation and how that all progressed is where VR will be now, which is there's a whole lot of people going after it. And all of a sudden the gaming, the people developing apps and the software, there's a lot more people doing it. It's going to get better. It's pretty decent now. I'm not going to lie. I enjoy mine now.
Well, what's interesting about it too is look at what video games were doing in the late 90s, early 2000s, and amazing graphics. And there still are. Yeah. But one of the largest games in the world now is Minecraft. Right. Which just is super blocky.
Which looks like what VR looked like in the 90s.
Right. So maybe that's why tech companies are like, hey guys, everybody's okay with this, right? And maybe we can just put Minecraft on it first.
Yeah.
And they'll want
It'll
to
be
be
fine.
in the world. Was it Tom? You could be Tom, right? And walk around and just clobber a tree until you have the wood.
Yeah.
Right? And then go build stuff.
I mean, yeah. I wonder how many adults that were in the, like, especially probably middle-aged men, just shook their head when their kids started playing Minecraft. And you're like, we've evolved to this, and you're spending 10 hours a day on Minecraft? It's just pixelated blocks. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
I played NHL hockey, which actually started to look real, like almost like you could walk in and go, "Is that a real game?"
I
or are
had
you
players
playing?
bleeding, and now you're playing Minecraft.
So
Come on.
When I came over to your house and jumped on, I sort of did what I would call, and I'm curious whether you're sort of you think that there's maybe a honeymoon phase and then a phase beyond this. And maybe we get into that after we rate the beer a little bit. I don't know where you were going.
I don't know either. Let's see.
But one of the things that came up in my mind was I want to do this to get that initial feel and go, yeah, I've heard I can ride a roller coaster. And it's so immersive that I'm going to
makes you sick.
My body will feel like things are happening that aren't. And I really wanted to test that and go, hey, can I get that gooey feeling in my stomach and that pit of my stomach feeling just with a headset on and watching this? And then to your point, I said, hey, let's get into, can we be a Blue Angel? And they had those, and we got in there. We did a skydiving one where we over the Great Pyramids. And then I was like, okay, I've done that. I don't think I would do that every day, right? No. Like it was like I wanted that experience to go, I'm doing something I'm not really doing. But that I think is where I'm going with it, is what are the future use cases that's going to make me want to spend, because I'm Apple, do I want to try to go that route or get the one from Samsung, the cheapo version, or God forbid Facebook, because I don't want to line their pockets with it.
That was one of my biggest moral dilemmas. Is I'm like, I really wish that before I didn't know that Oculus was owned by Facebook, and then they combined, and I'm like, oh, I really don't like buying products
for like a long time. I think they bought them in 2014.
Yeah, they were so separate. They always marketed early as separate, right? And I just had no idea they were tied. Then they're like, yeah, you have to have a Facebook account to get that's all your apps come through a Facebook account. That's how you have it. I'm like, oh, that sucks.
I almost thought when I was on your headset there that I was going to be riding a roller coaster and it was going to stop and I was going to see an ad. Like in my newsfeed where every I digress.
No, but just know everything you do on the Oculus shows up in your newsfeed for I have never gotten so many freaking advertisements for Oculus games or for meta games, whatever we want to call them. It's ridiculous. They're like, you liked this, you should like that. I'm like, just leave me alone. Right, Two separate things.
All right. Well, we're at a place where we could probably rate a beer. We'll come back.
What you wanted to talk about is where I wanted to go on the second half of this. So let's talk about where it goes, where it could go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Right.
I have a fun question for you at the end.
And how much porn do you think people are watching on
That's the question.
Because as an adult, I think everyone's mind, it goes to various places.
There's someone out there. If there's someone out there doing it right, there's 100 people out there doing it wrong. All right.
What are the wrong things? Can I rob somebody virtually or something?
Yeah.
All right.
So let's talk about some Urban Chestnut Winter White Ale, which I'm sure you can find in stores everywhere. I'm going to hold on this for just a second. I need to see if you're aware. Did you know Yingling is coming?
Yes.
Next week.
I thought I retweeted that from the Can Combo.
Okay, good. Just
Twitter.
Sure.
I know you don't tweet.
I don't even see the tweeters.
This was a while back. This was like 2 months ago.
A couple months ago, and it comes out in February. Yeah. So we get Yingling. I will have it in my refrigerator going forward.
It'll probably replace our standard threes that we usually talk about because it's good. So it's good,
and they have all the flavors coming. It's not just the normal Yingling lager that I get. So I can't wait. Cannot wait. Super excited. But that I bring that up.
It will replace all of it.
No,
maybe more. You like it a lot. I will definitely have it.
Yeah.
And
it'll be in my fridge for sure. Yeah. I bet you'll put it in rotation every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Or you won't shy away from putting it in rotation.
At least in the beginning, because it was always so hard to get.
Right. Yeah, it was like gold. Like, oh my God. Okay, so I like Urban Chestnut quite a bit. I don't taste all the things they tell me I should taste because my palate's probably not very refined. But I do like it. It's just it feels like a normal tasting beer. It doesn't have all these hints of notes of nonsense or whatever kind of stuff they have on the side, but it's a good ale.
Well, they only put that it's silky orange in flavor and subtle warming spices. So they don't have a lot.
Yeah.
The other is the aroma and the appearance.
It is subtle. There is a subtle spice at the end. But it's a good taste at the end. It's a good flavor. It's a good, I don't know. It doesn't taste like there's just that hint of spice, I think, at the end that brings it out. So I dig it. It's probably, somewhere between a 3 and a 4 for me.
Right.
I've struggled with that. I'm going to give it a 4. I never give things 4s.
Why not?
Why not? It's a 4. I'll drink.
Right.
I could put these in rotation. I probably won't because they're pints and that's a lot. But yeah. I'm going with 4.
Well, so what's interesting, and my rating may reflect this. I dig the taste.
Okay.
What's interesting about it, it's a sort of a feeling more so than it is a taste for me because it has a warming bit about it, which I don't know if the can telling me that made me kind of think about it, but what I pictured myself and is just, a really cold day. And you're having this, which just gives you that subtle warmth. Not a lot. It's not like whiskey warmth or that burn, but it's definitely a warm where if you're looking out the window at snow, this sort of counteracts that in that nice way that a warm tea or coffee to a certain extent without actually being warm because it's cold in my hand. But the taste gives me that feeling of a bit of warmth sensation, which I think is what they're trying to do here, right? Which it's a winter ale.
I attribute it to very smooth going down, like a smooth on your tongue. But yeah, I could buy it. It's kind of warm.
Yeah. I really dig the taste of this. I think I would dig it between November 1st and March 30th.
Yeah. It's perfectly titled.
Or 31st. Right. Because I think after spring is going, this is not going to taste good to me. Like I'm going to be sitting outside and I'm going to be tasting it going, I'm already kind of warm.
Yeah. It's a seasonal thing.
Yeah.
It's a seasonal beer.
I would say it's probably a 4 for those months, but all year, I mean, I think I got to base my rating on all year. So I would go 3. If all year was cold, if I lived in like Canada, so northern parts of Canada, this would be a 4 for me because I'd probably drink a lot more.
It's a 4 from November through March, right. And then it's a 2 from like April through September or October. So then you're like it averages to a 3 for the year.
Yeah, right.
Okay, 3 for the year.
Yeah. That's the best way I can explain it. I can't break it up. But what I'm saying is it is a warming kind of thing.
It's not something you're going to drink on a boat.
No. Well, unless I'm on a like going to Alaska.
An Alaskan cruise.
Right, an Alaskan cruise. I could see myself drinking this on deck, while I'm watching icebergs fall into the sea.
Okay. And, global warming happening right in front of you.
Nowhere else on a boat.
Okay. That's funny.
Because I'd want it cool and refreshing. Good. This is not cool and refreshing. This is warming and calming, I would say. It's sort of, which is a great thing. Don't get me wrong. And that's they probably only produce it.
Yeah, it's only a winter thing.
During the winter. So, I mean, they're nailing it during the time. Yeah. Right. So maybe I should give it a 4 and go, well, that's the only time they're making it. So that's the only time I can drink it anyway.
You can't get it in the summer anyway.
All right, change it to a 4.
Oh, my God. I already erased the 4 and put the 3, and then I'm going back to a 4. All right. So it's only available in the winter. You're only going to drink it in the winter.
So then
you ended on 4.
Right. So the only time I could possibly drink it, unless I hoard it, and then I'm like making myself drink it in the summer, which is silly.
Yeah,
not intended.
We're at 4. Good. We're at 4s. I'm pleasantly surprised with this.
I'll rate it as it's given to me, intended to be drank.
Yes. So good job, Urban Chestnut. Nice work. Winter white ale.
Yeah.
It's a purple. It's a very simple can. I know we used to describe cans. I haven't in a while, but this one's I don't know what ombre?
All cold colors.
All cold colors, starting at dark purpley.
Yeah, it's ombre. Starts dark up top
and goes to white at the bottom.
Progressively lighter in stripes, horizontal stripes.
Yeah. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you probably just saw the can because I showed it. If not, you have to look it up.
And I love these colors. This is my color palette of choice when I dress in blacks, blues.
Purples?
I tend to. But these like gunmetal blue or pale blues too, I like those a lot.
This does kind of, so if anybody's wondering and doesn't want to look this can up, it looks like a paint swatch that you get from like a hardware store. If you're like, I want to put a different color paint on my wall.
That's right.
It's that kind of like moderating down colors from dark to light. Anyway, okay, moving on.
All right. So
Good job.
I get on your VR. I do the 8 things, and I'm like, I think this would be awesome. It was awesome, and then I put it down, and I didn't come home and buy one.
Right.
Why didn't I buy one?
I'm wondering the same thing.
Well, you could. The obvious answer there was because
There's no flight
you're like,
simulator.
You're going to wait for Apple and maybe
You're
pay
gonna
that
pay
much because
$3,000 for it. Yeah, it's fine. Have
I
at
can
it.
assure you, I'm not paying that. So why didn't I come home and buy one?
You don't think it's worth it. You think it's still a novelty.
I do. I don't think there's enough use case for me. Now, if I'm a gamer, and you've seen the game shop, I have not been to the App Store to see
It's
how
not
many.
that it's not that impressive, really.
Because it's all Facebook. So like it's their built games or they do third party. I'm assuming they have third party.
I used to know how stuff got to the Apple Store and I don't have any idea how stuff gets to a VR store.
Yeah, I just didn't know like if you kind of had an idea that like, is this all Facebook run or is there like third party? Like Android, you go to the Google Play Store,
Right.
and I mean, everybody's, anyone can make
They have a
mobile
process
app.
to submit.
Right.
Yeah. I hope, and that's my biggest hope is that as people get into this market, as Apple gets in, as Samsung gets in, Google gets in by themselves, whatever they want to do, you start getting people who are developing games more quickly and developing new experiences differently. So I think it will only grow. I'm not impressed with their like selection of games. But I also didn't buy it for just games.
Yeah. So that's where. So it feels to me like right now the biggest use case is probably games for the majority of users. That's just my perception of what I think I see. 2 then would be probably some of the things like that you said where, and maybe that the older generation, it starts to skew of I want to go to museums. There's some travel destination places that I might not necessarily go by myself, but it would be cool to see not just on a video screen.
Yeah, I got an app called Wander, which allows you to go anywhere that Google Earth has gone or Google Street View has gone, and immerse yourself in Google Street View and just walk down the streets. And
does it take off all the little symbols?
No, you still have to deal with those stupid symbols, which is dumb. But you can wander anywhere. And so it's you go, oh, I can do that in Street View. Yeah, but in VR View, you can just turn around and everything is there. Like it's except for those weird carrot signs that tell you which way to go are still also there, which is dumb. But
and then do you warp 20 feet ahead every?
Yeah, you can warp ahead. It's dumb.
Because when I look at Google View, it's nice, but as you're going, you just kind of go forward.
Yeah, and it's
in warp speed for
and
20
it changes
feet,
the picture, right? And
like
there's I went to the pyramids that way, and there was a horse, and it looked like it was getting ready to buck some guy off, and then 20 feet later, the horse was gone, and the guy is still there, and I'm like, what happened? I need to know what happened between the gap.
Yeah.
It made me laugh.
What's the story?
Seriously, I only went 20 feet. How'd the horse get loose? Anyway, so moving on. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of promise and competition coming. There's a lot more people that'll be in that dev space to be creating software for it. I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, so we might not even have a clue of what we would think is the best use case now because it really hasn't been thought of, or it's been thought of, but it hasn't been acted upon yet. That we know of.
Right. And I've only explored probably a 100th of what's out there. I don't know. Not probably enough to be an expert on VR. But I did start thinking, I did a little bit of research on, by research, I mean, I went to Google. I'm like, where's VR going? And it's like by 2030, VR will be in 8K, just universally. We're not even in 4K yet, right? That will be this year. Probably this year, next year, the year after, it will be in 4K in your eyes, right? So like having that kind of video quality in your face is going to be ridiculous. Well, that's going to be doubled in less than 7 years. We'll be at 8K, which is uber ridiculous.
And again, now, and I teased this or brought it up a little earlier. For me, it's not the number of pixels because at a certain point,
The field of view?
it's the field of view. So I don't know. I don't remember exactly what yours was. I don't know if you can quantify it, but did it feel like it was
Yeah. I feel like I'm immersed.
as far as your vision can go on up, down, side to side?
Yes.
Okay.
With that said, I think there is a part where it kind of starts blurring out, but I'm not sure if that may just be my vision.
Or it's just natural, right?
Right,
Where you don't hyper focus on
Yeah,
things that
I
are
can't, read detail here.
90 degrees to your right.
Can't even see over here. There, I can see like that. Anyway, so I don't have 180 field of vision anyway. That's crystal clear. So
Sure. And they may have done that on purpose too. They could, like some of the things I think companies do are to replicate your experience to make it feel even more realistic. So they may have blurred a bit of that just to go, hey, you don't focus that well. It would hurt your brain.
yeah, you're not a lizard. You don't have an eye on either side of your head. You can't see.
Okay.
That.
So as long as everything, I think and you can really feel like you're totally immersed. Where I remember, I think the only part that I think I sort of knew is you have a headset on. I mean, its weight isn't what it used to be.
Nope.
I in that 90s stuff I was looking up, they made a point to say that it was like 2.2 pounds. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but take a 2.2 pound something and put it on your head.
Right. It's unwieldy.
And it was huge. This was definitely not that.
No.
But I was aware that it was on. But you're going to have that until they make contact lenses.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately you won't be able to do it.
I'm not doing it. Not doing it. So, here's where I'm excited about, right? So I'm excited about the fact that I already can explore. I can explore concerts. I can explore museums. I can explore cities. I can explore monuments. I can go to places that I wouldn't normally go. I can have seats at a concert that I wouldn't normally have. I only think that gets better. I only think that gets easier for VR to do. A 360 camera is like literally $400 for you could go have that. We could do that on the show. We could have a 360 experience on the show by putting a 360 camera, a VR experience by putting a 360 camera in the guest seat. And it would be like somebody sitting right there. Pretty cool for not a whole lot of money. I don't think we're far off from just being able to sit live stream a sporting event. You can go to a Lakers game and sit floor side.
And what's going to be interesting about that though, they're going to monetize it.
Oh, you have to.
Right. So it's not like, I think in our little piece of what we can understand now, right? We can think, oh, I could go to a game and enjoy it, but not necessarily have to pay for the tickets and all that. But if it comes out in VR world, they're not going to let you just sit there at a live game for free.
A smart person would go figure out how to buy one courtside seat,
right,
and get subscribers to pay him 800 times the amount he paid for that seat,
for real,
and stream it.
Yes,
and that will eventually happen, I'm guessing.
Yes,
or actually, probably no, it won't. The NBA will figure out how to monetize it and make $1 billion off of every seat or whatever they make.
You'll see something on the ref stand. Or for that, or at other sporting events, you'll see like the 360 thing. It'll be like that thing that hangs over the NFL games, where you kind of see it here and there.
Yep.
And you realize, oh, that's how I get certain views.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll see a camera probably, and then go, oh, that's the VR view.
Yep.
And then it's NFL's charging $20 a game or $400 for their package deal or something.
But I think it changes how you go to games and how you go to concerts, what concerts you want to go to, where you want to go to them at. If I can go to a Dave and Tim show in Riviera Maya on the beach, I want to go to that show live. That would be a good venue. But if I can't, if they have a show in Germany and I can sit on stage and watch their whole performance, I'm in for $40, right? I pay for that. That's pretty nice.
Really, does it then matter where they're at? Because if you're on a stage, they could tell you they're anywhere, right? You're just
but
you're in the same place. You're on the stage.
I want to see the crowd too. It's fun to watch the crowd. Sometimes,
as if you're the performer, kind of.
Yeah, the one I was watching. I'm standing on stage, I'm attached to a stand that's attached to the keyboard guy, I think, right in front of him. So I'm standing at height where I look like I'm standing on stage, and I'm looking out over the crowd. It's crazy town. It's really insane.
Yeah, sure.
So you want that experience. I think that's a cool experience to have. But I also think there's so many more applications for doing things that you can't normally do, even in the sense of going, I could probably meet people, I'm not single. I don't plan on meeting people for that reason, but I think there will be a time where people get married in VR land. I feel like where they never ever actually meet in person. There's people weird that do that crap now through some sort of crazy app. But I feel like we're not far away from crazy people getting married in VR land because they we walk around all the time in the virtual park together and we know each other so well. We're just going to get married here. And he lives in Germany and she lives in Australia. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. Stay living there.
That's generationally farther down the line. Because I think humans would have to adapt to a level where we didn't want to have, and maybe there's haptic suits or something that go along with it because,
I think so. That's where I wanted to go, and this is where this naturally leads, and it can't help it. But
right, especially because we talked about monetizing something that you can watch.
Yeah,
and of course, right, you go, hey, you know what else people tend to monetize?
Yeah. So where I think it goes, and where I think Apple's wrong, rumors of what Apple's doing is wrong, is they're taking away the hand devices. I think where VR goes is it makes it. So what I've read so far is they're going to make it more haptic suits. And then eventually they can include things like the sense of smell or the sense of taste, or so you're already including the sense of feel. So at that point, you've done sight, sound, all of your senses are engaged in some sort of experience, which I think is crazy dope, and also weird.
Yeah, right.
But it logically goes to if you can do almost anything and feel like you're there with a haptic suit on, or have whatever that is, gloves. Suit, feet, things. I don't know, whatever you're into. I don't freaking know. I don't know where you go with that, but
there'll be teenage boys that never leave their room and never leave their haptic suit.
Agree, and they're gonna, gross.
Well, so just before we jump into that, because so in the long run, so I just wanted to bring up a couple of references. I'm not sure if you've seen them, but Ready Player One is kind of like that world. Yeah. Right. And I was kind of waiting for a good spot to throw that in there to go, hey, in a real futuristic world, that's all of what people are in. They're just really their avatars. They can make up their avatar. They spend. Yep. There's money. There's a whole monetary system in that world. Yep. And everyone's in it. And then whatever. Yeah. There was a Bruce Willis movie. I don't know if you were, and I just thought of it while we're here. And I just, the basic premise is that everyone is in a haptic suit or essentially in a virtual reality world, but then they have actual people that are like out for them. And it might be called surrogate. I think it might. Oh,
that's weird.
Might be called that, and they kind of sort of live through the surrogate non-human. And then, but they're all back at their house, controlling it and feel it, all the sensation. But that whole thing, there's some downside. Yeah. I think when you don't leave your suit, number one, you won't bathe. Right. Necessarily. You're going to be stinky and gross, and you're going to be like the fat people on Wall-E. Yeah. Right. They
never leave their seat.
Right. On that ship. Because, if you're like, I can be in an entire world and never move and get all that sensation, like, is that going to be so good, right? That you're like, oh, I'll just sit here all day. Which isn't good for us, right?
No,
that's not how we're built.
It's not good. So the question is does this in the next 10 years with a haptic suit replace strip clubs?
Right. Or brothels, right?
Agree. I was going to ease my way into porn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all together. Like the sex industry, right?
Yeah. You always ease your way into porn. You start at a strip club and then you work your way to porn. So strip clubs. You think it reduces the need for strip clubs?
Well, I don't know to say. Is there a need for strip clubs? There is something in
the desire for strip clubs. Right. Sorry, you're right. Need as a whole is a weird term. I apologize for that.
In the way our economy is built, as long as it's not against the law, and then some places strip clubs are, but where they're not,
willing consent,
they have them. Yeah. Right. They have adults that partake in them, and I think they'll always be a want for a sex industry, whether it be strip clubs.
Yep.
I think whether it be prostitution, which you and I have talked,
Yep.
about, and we think that it shouldn't necessarily be illegal, right? As long as it's consenting adults and that there's some oversight to it, so people aren't being trafficked. Obviously, we don't want any part of that. But in this world, I think it's inevitable. I think it's going to be, a play. It's going to be like this. Hey, if I can immerse myself, and there's been a couple of, again, movie references, but they all, movies are a good sight into the future, right? And there's been a couple movie references where, the person's like sitting on the couch and then they're interacting. And then it's like, oh, I'm in virtual reality or whatever you want to call it. And I think, yeah, for sure. I think because you take all the bad parts out, right? You're like, which some people
all the stigma and going,
right. You're like, hey, I don't want to necessarily be in a relationship with this person, but I just have some primal itch I want to scratch. And you have the best means of scratching it, and I'm willing to pay $20 or I don't know, however that much is. But it's more immersive than watching a video screen, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more than just your flat screen, monitor in front of you. So I have seen too many things on Instagram where people are like doing weird stuff by themselves in their room, and somebody walks in and they're like, oh, that's not what I was doing. When it's obviously what they were doing was something crazy. Right. So
in their VR headset.
In the VR headset, wearing an Oculus, wearing a whatever. And so, I'm like, I don't see any of that stuff on the App Store, right? Because that's not something they sell on the App Store.
Facebook isn't in the porn business.
So, right.
Or strip club business.
Right. And so, so then I'm like, you and I had this, a little, like a tinge of this conversation. And that's what I'm like, I can't even, I'm afraid to Google it, but I know it exists. So then I'm like, okay, so I Googled, are there adult things going on in this VR world? And oh my God, is there?
Right. 10,000, right? What is that? Google says how many hits they gave you within 1 second.
18 billion VR porn sites. So yeah, it's already out there. So there's already a VR world for porn and people are already in it. I did not click on a single freaking link. I promise you that, because I'm like, this is going to screw up.
I don't judge you.
My algorithm is so delicate anymore because I've sent all these cat videos to my wife. And so now it's jacked up because of that. And now Facebook's jacked up with my meta stuff. It's like freaking everywhere. So I'm trying not to jack up my algorithm any worse than it already is.
Don't try to control your algorithm, man. Just let your algorithm control you.
No. But yeah, it's already out there. I'm like, oh my God.
I'm sure.
So it's all, you can go but that I guess that was where again, with this VR headset, my eyes keep opening to different things. And one of them was, it's not very expensive to go get a 360 camera, which means anyone who's shooting porn shoots it with a 360 camera and you can sit in the room, literally in the room right there. It's like, oh my God, that's a thing. And then so that becomes, there's probably a whole industry that spins out of just that, of what kind of in-person immersive experience do you want? And then how do I incorporate a haptic suit? Holy crap, that's going to get crazy. So anyway,
then pick out every vice. Then it's like, then it'll be like, we're going to put a little drug way to get a little bit of drug in you, right? So that, or alcohol or something, so that you're, whatever that vice may be. Because the other thing I thought of, so we had that conversation a bit, and we're like, well, of course, people are going to find ways to make this adult, and I think the first thing we thought of was that, and then later on, I'm like, well, there's other itches that people want to scratch, it's like how you go to those destructo rooms, right?
Yeah.
And you hit things. Well, in VR land,
you can do that all day long.
You could do that, but say you want to. And I'm not advocating this, but I'm sure that you could do felony stuff. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You could live vicariously in this VR world, which is just like
VR Purge.
GTA, right? Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
But in more of a
realistic
way.
Agree.
You could do all the stuff that they do on that, right? All the vices.
Beat people up.
Right.
Do whatever.
Which is kind of, it's
weird.
It's kind of gross to think about.
Yeah, it's horrible.
But it's going to be there, and it's going to be in those dark recesses that exist today in a 2D world.
Yeah.
and it's just going to be a 3D world, and it's going to. And if you want to go there, you're going to find it.
Oh yeah.
But if you don't want to go there, you hope you don't stumble in it.
Yeah, you hope you don't accidentally get onto a weird VR page. But I think those, I think as YouTube, as 360 cameras and things like YouTube have immersive experiences, you're going to get more and more of that. Like weird, it's going to get farther and I went to the rave thing. That might as well have been porn. It was the weirdest thing I've ever walked through. It was so crazy. And I'm like,
yeah, today's music festival.
Right. And there's like, no one's wearing hardly any clothes, and they're all wearing camel packs because they're drinking water or whatever they're drinking all day. I don't know. I don't rave. But like, it's the weirdest. Like, I walked through the weirdest thing ever in that music festival thing. So I think they're already that kind of like, let's go walk through some weird stuff. I think there's already some of that stuff out there. I think it'd only get better. And by better, I mean more immersive, more places.
The reason I would buy one the next as a purchase would be for like IMAX movies. So that old school IMAX, not just the flat screen IMAX at the big place, but the ones that like at the Science Center, that are that thing. Because I would love to see those kind of things where I've actually felt movement almost, right? Like there's a couple of movies I just really remember, but now they're made that way, right? It's like, oh, we're gonna fly through the mountains, but it's all around you, so you really feel it.
So I forgot
that would be awesome.
When you left,
to see movies, I would love to get into a movie verse to feel like I'm the only one there, right? Like there's no other sensory stuff going on. I have like a headset on, and just the eyes, so I'm fully in to this movie, action, thriller, in a car chase. So I'm like really real close to it.
I went and looked after you left, and then I realized that I have Amazon Prime. There's an Amazon Prime app, and so I can watch all my movies on that thing, and it puts you in a movie theater with you're the only person in there. Literally, it puts you in a seat.
That's
so
hilarious.
You can sit, and I can sit in my recliner, and it looks like I'm sitting next to a bunch of other recliners, which is really weird. And then then it's a not fully circle or half circle, but it's a curved screen in front of you.
Nice.
And then I figured out how to cast it to, so I can plug it into my computer, or I can plug it into my TV and run the audio through that if I really wanted to.
Okay.
So you could get probably a more immersive sound quality out of it, but yeah, I was like, oh my God, it's like I'm sitting in a theater.
Okay,
so I found you could watch movies on it, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, that would be my number one. I can see myself playing it. I'm not a big game.
I'm guessing there's
person.
a Netflix app and that kind of stuff too, but
probably. But
wow, so
well, cool. We've covered a lot.
We ran the gamut on VR, which is kind of what I thought we would probably do, is just kind of jump around and figure it out. So good.
Yeah, we put some history in there, hopefully for the people that like the fun facts about some of the history of stuff we talk about. I think we talked about all the potential use cases, and like it'll be interesting to see, where this goes. It's so big right now, but it's like it's interesting that in 5 years will we go, man,
that was dumb.
No one really wanted it that much, right? A lot of unused headsets around, or is it going to be, like sort of what they predict of we'll be sitting around in virtual cafes, talking and
I have a feeling it's going to be the latter. We'll be sitting around in virtual cafes
go up and down ladders virtually.
Yeah, doing, interviews and whatever else through that thing, right? I mean,
yeah. Cool.
So,
all right.
awesome.
Well, good stuff. If you guys have any thoughts on it, always reach out. We love to hear it. Thoughts on everything. If you go try this Urban Chestnut beer and want to drink along with us and tell us what you liked or disliked about it, we always like that.
Tag us, tag them in it.
Do all of that.
Yeah, do all that fun stuff that you do on social media.
Smash the buttons.
Yeah, hit the subscribe and likes and whatever people do these days.
All right.
All right. Thanks you.
There we go. The reality of this show ending is not virtual. It's virtual real. Powering down.